We've got these two panes have failed. The seals have failed in the doors. There's at least 2, 3, possibly 4 of the windows, the same thing. It's hard to see, but I can see it from the outside. Other than that, pretty much we know we've got a leak under the sink underneath here. It needs to be taken care of. If there's nobody using the sinks on a daily basis, it's not going to be a huge deal. That fireplace is very dirty. There's soot all on the inside. It needs to be cleaned and serviced. So I've just made a note of those things in there. As far as the garage is concerned, you cannot have a pet door and a fire door.
Correct.
So I made a note of that. Now, the easy way to do that is to put some sheet metal on there and some screws, and then you put drywall in the void and then sheet metal again. That's a hell of a lot cheaper than changing out that door. That's a $500, $600, $700 job. So it's fixable. So I just made a note of that. Everything in the laundry room, I'd highly recommend. There's things, you know, rather than go through all of the things, one of the things I recommend is putting a pan underneath the washing machine. So if it floods, it doesn't go through a large portion of the house. It's in the report, not a requirement, just common sense. So just making notes like that.
Okay.
There's no GFI for the dishwasher, which is a newer code, but still want the domestic goddess to have that safety that you would have today. There's no GFI at the sink, which was a requirement when the house was built. There's one other area where there was no GFI, and I can't remember where it was, but it's listed in the report. So as we come through here, the door to the exterior, that door has to have not only an automatic closer, it has to have a latch at a minimum 52 inches to prevent kids walking through that and getting to the pool. The gates, the exterior gates.
The door from the garage to the side yard.
Yeah, and you've got a pet door in there, which means a small kid can get in there or a small kid can out. For a number of reasons, that's not a good idea. So just be aware of it. It's in the report. No GFI. That faucet, that area is badly blocked. There's very little water coming out of it. The drain was very slow to drain. It's all listed in the report. Let me just turn the AC off for these guys, just so it doesn't run continuously after we're
I'll
gone.
show them the door that you're talking about on the exterior. It's that door.
I'll just turn this AC off. Wall here from the garage door. Now the water heater in there, it's at its maximum setting right now, which means the water's coming through at about 140 degrees. Not only is that very wasteful, it's very dangerous. That water at that temperature will peel your skin off, it'll scald you. So that needs to be adjusted. I don't adjust them because then the people living here say, hey, what'd you do to our water? It's not as hot as it was. So I leave it alone.
Okay.
Now, also the P&T line on there, the pressure temperature line, is stubbed down into the pan. So it means if it ever blows off hot steam water, it's coming right back up into the room. It needs to go to the outside. So I've made a note of that. We don't test these electric chairs. Now, for whatever reason, those blinds went up by themselves. So they're either on a sensor or, because I was walking up the stairs when they started in operation. So you need to do is close them before we leave. That way they're not left out the wind.
The awning?
Yes.
She has a remote for it,
Okay.
so we'll check.
So,
It's automatic, it's right
Okay.
by the side, so they go up about 4 o'clock on their
Okay.
own, but I can manually bring them out or in.
okay, just know with these Santa Ana winds, if the winds get a
Oh,
hold
I'm
of
very
those,
aware. Yeah.
Do they have
And-
wind
And
sensors?
kick in, I bring it up
okay.
and lock it in.
Okay, so as long as you lock it where we've got these Santa Ana winds, it'll be a good idea. So, everything else is pretty darn good. There's a few squeaks around. I'm only 154 pounds, so there's definitely some in the stairs, there's some in this bedroom for sure. Everything's okay in there. This bathroom, the shower head, there's very little water coming out of that shower head. So it's either a blockage there's a ball valve in the wall, or it could be the shower head itself. I don't know. I don't pull things apart to determine it. I just made a note. Now, whenever you have 2 sinks, you're supposed to have 2 plugs, one at each end of the countertop. And usually it'll go in the side wall. It's not. We've only got one. It was a very common mistake when these houses were built in the 70s and the 80s. So I've just made a note of that. Underneath the sinks, there's a few shut-off valves that are corroded, but they're not leaking at this point in time. There's quite a large squeak in the floor now. But when they
Yes,
change
on the way to
carpets
that
out-
room there.
Yeah, when they change out the carpets, they'll get rid of all of that. In here. Okay, so when you turn the shower on, you got decent flow right there. But if you turn anything else on, like that tub, That will drop down. And then if you've got anything else running in the house, like the faucet, or the dishwasher, or anything else, look how much water's coming out of that thing. So we've got some restrictions somewhere. The
Okay.
plumber shouldn't have a difficult time chasing that down and figuring out where it's going. Now, what everybody says, not necessarily you lovely ladies, well, you don't put anything else on when you're having a shower. Life doesn't work like that.
Right.
Kids showering, laundry's on, blah, blah, blah.
Dishwasher's on.
Yep, so we've got almost 80 pounds of pressure coming into the house. So the plumber knows what steps to take, like the mechanic. He knows, okay, if I do this, this, and this, and I fix it, great. If it doesn't, then now I've got to start looking elsewhere. Not a huge deal. A number of the screens are just aging, they're starting to get a bit funky. Now, the electrical outlets, there's going to be a GFCI somewhere in the garage. Now, what I don't do is push in my test plug and test it, trip. Now I got to go and start tearing storage crap out of garage closets and everything else, which people don't like me doing. So it's there somewhere, guarantee you. However, until the closets are all empty, nobody's going to trip that, because we don't want to leave these guys without any power at any of the kitchens, any of the sinks. We got no handles on any of these drawers or drawers. You can still open them, but you know that's an inconvenience if you've got fingernails, large fingernails. That's why it looks to be in decent shape. So other than that, there's, like I said, it's a beautiful house. There's just a few things. That plumbing thing would probably be the most significant to find and fix, but it shouldn't be more than a couple hours, 2-3 hours for a plumber.
And then
So
I
we're not
noticed
talking-
those windows look like they have some spots on
Yeah,
them.
we just put down the seal failures, multiple windows, because on a really hot day, they may be more pronounced. Today's hot, but it's not a killer hot day, so it will need a little bit of, somebody have to go and just determine what's going on. And the first thing we do is pull the window up, clean it. If the spots come off, we're done. If it doesn't, it means it's in between the two panes of glass. Now it means that the seal has failed, and it's on its way to requiring replacement. We don't test any speakers or telephones, TVs or anything, whatever's left behind. We don't test any of that electronic stuff. All right, so that's pretty much it in the house. Everything up in the attic looked good. Could do with some more insulation up there, but it's not a requirement. Once again, we put it in. As the first guy that goes up there, and usually it's the termite guy, tells the sellers, hey, you know what, you've got insulation, but you don't really have enough. Well, it was enough back in 1987, so then it becomes a potential fight as to who's going to put extra insulation in there. So, have you seen those 3 lights on before?
Those 3 lights? No.
Yeah,
Oh,
there they
there
go.
they go. What about the backyard? Are we doing exterior? All right.
They're not, they do not comply with the new safety requirements that the state enforces. So you'll have to just have somebody come in and do, you've got an automatic closer on it, but the latch is too low. A kid can just simply turn the handle and walk in the gate. You can't have that anymore. These trees are going to be problematic. They're too big as it is. The root systems are massive. See the big giant roots right there? Well, they're getting underneath that wall. There's already some movement, some cracks, not big. We'll get under the walkways. You're going to have to talk to an arborist about trimming these things down to stop them doing any damage in the future. So as we come across here, we've got way too much vegetation, but let's say that. You can see water sits in along here when it rains. Watch the dog. So you just need to regrade the dirt in here, get the water to actually go to the drain. Made note of that. There is, what's here? These aluminum stays, that whole thing is leaning slightly out. So I've just made a note of that. In the corner, these pilasters, they've moved. That's hill creepage, a little bit of creeping on the hillside. So they've pulled, the original metal fence has now got brackets on it, so it can actually attach itself to that thing. There's been a little bit of movement on the wall. There's a few cracks in there. Some of these panels.
Not too bad since it's been here since '88, though.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. It matters from today on. Because
Yeah,
if this
that's
guy
true.
complains, nobody cares what it done in 88.
Yeah,
so.
that's true.
They did disclose that the neighbor, they had an issue with the neighbor, I think to the right, he's since moved, but he had some trees that were causing roots and damaging, and they redid all their fencing, and he removed all the trees.
Okay. So eventually somebody's going to come along and it'll probably be the gardener and tell the guy, hey, you're going to have problems with these trees with the neighbor. You need to remove them. Once again, therefore I don't have to pay for them.
Yeah.
If it's been at least put on paper. So some of these glass panels are loose, some of the seals, there's a seal hanging out over there. Not a big deal, easy to fix, but everything seems to be leaning out slightly. Now, can you do anything about that? Probably not at this point in time, but you may be able to pull it in, put a bracket in, and just hold it a little bit more vertical. Right now, it's sitting out just a little bit. So I've made a note of those things in there. As far as the pool and the equipment is concerned, there's a little bit of discoloration on the Pebble Tech. That's perfectly normal for this type of product. There has been a bit of movement on this pool deck, and you can see it right in there. That's not the original grout joint in there. Now, it probably was just the wrong color grout to put in there, but there's been a little bit of shifting, a little bit of movement on this area.
She said the original owner's grandson did the grouting.
Okay. Note to self, never let the grandson do things, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, so yes. Now, I just as an inspector, I don't think there was any significant movement on this pool deck, but that's just a red flag as to what's going on. There's quite a bit of grouting needs to be redone. You can see in here, loose stuff, missing. More water that gets in there, the more it moves, the more to feed the trees, the more the roots will grow, the bigger the...
With the fencing, if that was all up, would all those
Nope.
other things be required?
No, yes they would.
They
That
still
fencing,
would?
that fencing is not considered to be state approved.
Oh,
Period,
okay.
end of story.
Talking
Gotcha.
about the
It's a
pool
key
safety
fence. It's
fencing.
got no capable way of closing its own gates or anything else. So that is standard for the state.
Okay.
For self-closing and latching.
Self-closing and latching.
And
latches-
above 4 feet.
It's above, I think it's 5 feet, but the gate, the latch itself has to be a minimum, I think, of 52 inches.
Oh, wow.
So a kid can't reach up and open the latch and walk in. This one's got a string on it. The kid just reaches out, pulls the string, and the door's open. The gate's open.
Got it.
So that's you know, they're easy fix. There's some areas where there's a little bit of grading and drainage around the property needs to be done. And water will pond in certain planters. And you can see here, this tree, just, you know what, I'm a tree person myself. I'm not a hugger, but I'm a tree person. What do you do with it? If you're willing to put up with the root system that does a bit of damage here and there, you fix the damage, the concrete, no big deal, no harm, no foul. But you will need to do something with those tree roots, otherwise you're going to have some issues. Basically everything in here, I always call out, you're going to need a service done, just so that you've got whatever service you're going to do is done right here, right now, and moving forward, the pool guy is going to be taking care of it as it goes along. So usually that includes a backwash. I'm going to check the GFI, make sure the lights trip. I'll run the heater. I haven't done that yet. I wanted to get everybody out of the house to give these people the house back. But I can fix this. I can finish this up in about 10 or 15 minutes outside once I've taken all my tools out of the house.
Got it.
So the AP unit, that's a newer unit. It's probably 10 to 15 years old, which means it probably still runs on Freon. And now we're not using Freon anymore, so it can be an issue if it needs to be serviced. I was running it, it was putting out at 54 degrees and going back at 78 degrees, so it's got a good split on there, so I'm not too worried about it. There's quite a bit of moss and black mold growing on the walkways and paths and driveway. Somebody's gonna have to come in and just spray wash that. We usually will put something like a simple green down. It's a very, very, very good cleaning agent, but it doesn't damage or harm any of the vegetation. So somebody's gonna be doing a bit of that at some point in time. Then we get across here. So that latch can be right from here. Some kid just pulls and that's in. You know, does it matter? It does if a kid gets in there and you got a problem. Seatbelt. Who needs a seatbelt? Nobody until you need one.
Until you
Same
need
principle
it.
Got it.
is in there. Here's your gas meter. This is your electrical panel. I've pulled the cover off. Everything in there, all the wires and breakers are all compatible. Everything's good. It's all marked. You do have a solar system on the roof, and the panels, I believe, are over on the south side. Just have whoever put this system in, it should be noted somewhere, www Active Solars or us, have them come out and run the whole system, and they'll determine, is it producing the electricity it was supposed to produce. sometimes a panel goes out and instead of 10 amps or 100 amps, they've got 90 or 70. They'll do whatever it takes to bring it back up to full capacity. Whilst it says AC disconnect, I think what they've done is they've got this running from the solar, which still actually run your AC unit, even if the electric power went out from Edison. So it looks to be good. So any and all grouting, there's a little bit of grouting in most of the showers, in the shower areas around the corners and stuff.
Caulking and grouting.
Yeah, caulk and grout. So now you've got gutters. These are like an invisible gutter, but you can see there's nothing up top. Not a requirement, just made note there's partial gutters on the house. Grout and caulk, as I said, a little bit here and there. So all in all, it's a beautiful house, but it needs a handyman to go through. Needs a little bit of this, a little bit of that. A lot of furniture in here. Handyman can go through, make sure all the electrical outlets are wired correctly with a test plug like I showed you. And then once all the cabinets and closets get cleared out in the garage, we're going to find the GFI that controls the bathrooms. We put that GFI down in the bathroom to move you away. Instead of you standing there shaving and the GFI pops, if you can simply reach across and touch it, and you're still at the water source, we want to move that person away. That's why we put it in the garage in a place where it moves you away. And obviously if you trip it and it trips again, or he set it and it trips again, you know you've got a problem. Get it fixed. Rather than the guy with the shaver, he's pushing on the button, next day he's got his hand in the sink with electric razor. Not a good combination. It happens every now and again, but that's the reason we put the GFI away from the bathrooms. Any questions that you guys had or I didn't answer?
No.
Cool. All right, stucco's in great shape for the most part.
Oh, water heater? Oh, you just said
Water
TCP
heater,
valve. That's
well,
it.
it's a 75-gallon tank, which means it needs 3 straps. It's only got 2 right now. And the pressure temperature line drops down into the pan, which means it'll flood that room. And
Needs
then
to
the
go
rest
outside.
Anywhere out to the outside. Handyman can do that very simply. Some of the drain heads are blocked like this. Not a big deal. But it's a big deal when it rains hard. You've got too much water sitting in multiple planters around the house. So this one here, even though it's got an automatic closer on it, the kid simply opens the gate right there. And there's no latch to latch it from the inside. That's state thing. And the state's got a whole paperwork in that. The water shut-off, this water shut-off right here only goes to the sprinkler systems. The actual water shut-off for the house is in the garage, but there's bikes and all sorts of stuff junk piled in there. I can't get to it, but I looked at it and I put put my telephoto lens on it. There's no leaking going on in there, but when you get moved in, the bikes will be gone. I did not open the single door because I'd have to move the electric bikes, which we don't do. Made a very costly mistake on that one time in past career, because once one bike goes over, they all go over. So that door will need to be open and closed once you get through for your final walkthrough. All lights in the house, just check them when you come through. There's a lot of oddball switches here and there. And then fans, there's several fans in the house. Just make sure the fans are running. See the root system on this thing? That's just going to get bigger and bigger and bigger.
It looks like it was cut.
Topping the tree, well, you can do that, but there's other ones. That one definitely wasn't cut. Topping the tree keeps the root system somewhat in check, but it's not a great place to put a ficus variety tree simply because of the root system is so invasive.
But they're so pretty.
They are pretty.
These ones add privacy. Are those as destructive of roots as the ficus?
Well, it doesn't matter. It's too close to the neighbor's house. So there's a number of reasons why that should be at least heavily trimmed. It's being heavily trimmed. They're just too big for where they are.
Got it.
All right, so that's it.
Thank you, Richard.
Let me just close out the computer.